Hi, welcome to today's episode. I'm really happy to be here with Dave MacLeod. Dave is a legend in the climbing world. He's got a background, a master's in exercise science. He's a prolific climber who excels at many different styles of climbing, from ice to sport to trad to bouldering. You name it, you do it all. And we're going to talk today about his experience as a climber, his background in health, and how he's dealt with injuries around climbing and how he's progressed through them. So thank you for joining me.
No problem.
Oh, he's also written 2 amazing books, which I have here. 9 out of 10 climbers make the same mistakes. Really great. And the other one, Make or Break. We'll talk about this one today related to injuries. Yeah. So, hi. Thanks for having me up here. We're in Fort William right now.
Yeah, we're in my wall in
my
garage.
Wall. Your gorgeous gym, home-built wall. It's amazing. And yeah, so I guess to start things off, you've been climbing for
25 or 26 years.
25,
I'm
26.
41. So
You're 41.
I started climbing when I was 15.
Yeah. And you have a background in health science.
Yeah. So I did an undergrad in physiology and sports science in Glasgow Uni, and then I went on and did a master's and did a bit of research. And then since then, I haven't. Well, I'm back studying again now, but since then I've just been a professional climber, but I've also followed the sports science field in all the kind of intervening time, just for pure interest, because I really love reading the science and trying to apply it in my own personal climbing, and writing about it. So I wrote about it for years on my blog, and then subsequently in the books.
Yeah. And Dave also has a really great YouTube channel where he shares very generously a lot of information and topics related to being a climber, which is actually how I started learning more about your dealing with injuries in the past. I've had a finger injury early on when I started climbing almost 15 years ago, and I tweaked a finger not too long ago, and then I found you've actually injured nearly every finger. You've had plenty of injuries.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to pick your brain about how you learned, or maybe what used to be common practice for dealing with these things. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of doctors will just say, don't use it for 3 months. And what you've learned in your progression from dealing with these.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing I think is that climbers have some common injuries that lots of people get, both outside of sport and also in sport, especially damage to shoulders and elbows. But we also get some very specific injuries with our fingers that other sports don't generally get and are quite rare, and general practitioners, GPs, haven't sometimes heard of. And I mean, the first proper injury I got was the year after I started climbing. I had quite a bad pulley tear, and I tried to kind of ignore it, not knowing even what it was, and hoped it would go away. And then eventually I realised I was going to have to stop climbing. I went to my GP, and do you know, it was actually, I see it as a defining moment in growing up, was going to my GP with that injury, because I was so desperate to have a solution for it, because climbing just meant everything to me. Mm-hmm. And I went, and he said, take 6 weeks off climbing and take this ibuprofen. And so I went off going, right, okay, well, I've been given this advice, 6 weeks, that should do it. And I went back after 6 weeks, dismayed, because it was no different.
Oh, wow.
And I said, doctor, it's not changed. And so I was looking for the next stage, what were we going to try next? And the doctor said, the suggestion was, try a different sport.
Oh my God, just give up?
Yeah. So I was walking down the street after leaving the clinic, and it was just a kind of real moment where I was like, that can't be it.
Yeah.
There must be more to it than this.
Yeah.
And I realised that I needed to take responsibility for my own progress with my injury. And as a 16-year-old, that was a really, really important step to think, I need to do my own research. I need to make sure that I either research enough to put myself in front of the right expert who knows what they're talking about, mm-hmm. or better still, actually learn how to deal with this myself. And so I was going to I couldn't get into the university libraries, but I could get into the bookshops, and I used to sit in the corner and read all of the sports medicine textbooks
So this was your natural progression to go into that.
Yeah, and
that
so
stream.
I thought, well, I wonder where I can see sports medicine textbooks, and I went into the university library shops and just started reading the textbooks, and I could see that there was this world of sports medicine where these injuries were described, and you could see that there were principles of treatment that went beyond just take 6 weeks off and take ibuprofen. Although for the classic climber's finger injury, the pulley tears, there wasn't a lot, and there didn't seem to be a lot that you could do. I started experimenting with things like putting my hands in cold water, with the idea that would stimulate blood flow. And I think that, well, maybe that was effective, but not for the reasons I thought it was. But I did manage to come back from that injury, but for years after that, I just got one finger injury after another, and it was horrendous. You know, I'd only just recover from one, and I'd get another one, and that lasted for years. And I became aware that there were differences. There were some climbers that barely got injured, and there were some climbers like me who seemed to just get injured constantly. And here we are thinking, like, there has to be some reason for this. But at that time, I had no clue what that could be. You know, some people might say, well, just genetics, just bad luck, or whatever. Now with hindsight, I see it as that I was not very unhealthy.
Interesting. In general, in your diet, and how you're living, or
so I think this is where you have to like zoom out and think of the context of the whole person and the environment they came from. So I grew up in Glasgow, and the life expectancy in Glasgow is horrendously poor.
Is it?
You know, and if you get on the train in the centre of Glasgow, the big exhibition centre, going east, and there's like a train stop every mile or two or something, and the life expectancy declines by 1.4 years every stop.
Oh my god.
God. You know, people don't survive to old age in the city I grew up in. And that's like, well, what's the relevance of that? Like, but there is that context of you're living in a big city. Everyone's eating a poor diet, and even the people that are eating the best diet, it's still actually a poor diet. So I now see myself as when I was in my late teens as being very unhealthy, generally, and even beyond that. As I started to take my climbing quite seriously, that I was still doing a lot of things that were very unhealthy, especially things like not getting enough sleep, doing far too much work, just overstressing myself. And so I think my capacity to absorb training was extremely poor. And that I don't know this for sure, no one ever knows for sure, but that was probably a reason why I would get injured all the time. And as I've got older, when you're supposed to get more injured, I've got way less injuries. So my period of finger injuries gradually came to an end and stopped. And I have had a couple of very minor pulley tweaks since. But in the past few years, I've had no injuries from training at all. And all the injuries I've had have been from falling off cliffs. Hitting the ground. Traumatic injuries.
From some of those more treacherous climbs you do.
So just falling off hard trad routes. Although, I mean, I got lowered off the end of a rope on a 6B sport route, smashed my ankle to bits. That was really bad. That's the worst injury I've ever had. I've broken my ankles, both ankles, several times from falling off like E9s and things. I also did that classic error of trying to skateboard with my daughter and separating my shoulder. So I don't know if you can see that, but you can see my shoulder looks very weird. So I separated my AC joint quite badly. So my shoulder's still very deformed. No pain at all. It's perfectly functional.
It's those things you do outside.
So I sort of beat myself up. Everyone accumulates battle scars if you do, just from living, and especially from doing sport. You accumulate battle scars.
So that's an interesting topic, because I think some people talk about injury prevention or just somehow getting through climbing without getting injured. But it seems like it's almost like driving. If you drive enough, you'll get a car accident, whether it's your fault or not, if you climb enough at a high level, injuries are they're just bound to happen.
That's right. So there's several separate streams of inputs to getting injured. There's just the fact that you're putting yourself in front of danger, and so the probability is high that something will go wrong at some point. You'll have an awkward fall, your feet will slip when you're holding a crimp, and that'll tear a pulley, even if you do everything else right. But then there's also the susceptibility, the underlying susceptibility to injury, and even within that has all these subdivisions. That can be all sorts of things. That can be like if you climb in a hot, greasy climbing wall and your hands are sweaty, and when you take a crimp, and as you're loading it maximally, one finger just slides a little bit, and that can load the pulleys and cause an injury. Or it can be that you're not recovered from your previous session because the other things you do in your routine are causing you to be less healthy than you should be, or your recovery quality is poorer than it should be. So there's all these different inputs.
So slowly, as you were younger, you were climbing, you eventually got more sleep to recover yourself. You started working on the fuel you were taking, the food you were eating, to improve the nutrients that your body was getting to repair itself.
I would say my diet quality definitely just steadily improved through my 20s and 30s. And then in the past 3 years, I've taken a much greater interest in that area and made much more changes. And I feel that I've made a major sort of jump in terms of my feeling of health and resilience against injury from doing that. But also, I started to respect my circadian rhythm properly.
Oh yeah.
and even that was before I really understood the science that is emerging on just how important that is, and how you can't really work around your circadian rhythm without running into problems. And that if you just respect it, then so many things are better. Even if you don't change anything else, if you just go to bed early and have a good quality sleep for enough hours every single night, then that on its own will reduce your probability of being injured so much. And also, I guess with experience, I know what puts me in front of more risk of injury, and I try to avoid those things. So if I'm climbing in a hot, greasy climbing wall, I take more care. I'm more ready to say, no, I'm not going to do that move. I don't like that greasy hold. I'm just not going to do it. Whereas when I was younger, you're just like, I've got to do every move.
I gotta do every route. I gotta do every problem. I think that's an interesting point. I'm slowly learning that as I progress as well. I think it depends what your goals are. I have some goals of climbing outdoors, so I'm approaching indoor climbing a bit differently in that my success on the day at the gym won't be determined by whether or not I get to the top of this specific climb that was set. It's did I get the exercise in, or did I get the drills in that I needed to do? Because some of those routes that you climb at the gym might be fun, but it could add that element of risk that will injure you and prevent you from doing what you want to do outside.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, climbing as a sport, it's slightly different indoors and outdoors, but one of the big advantages of climbing, especially with rock, is that the climb will be here tomorrow, or next week or next year. So you can afford to give yourself time to say no, not today, and maybe tomorrow if it's better conditions, or maybe next year when you're stronger, or whatever. So you can give your body a chance to adapt. But on the flip side of that, so other sports that have a competition schedule, they have that stress of like the competition is next month, and so you need to train now, even if you're carrying some niggle or injury, and that can make it difficult. But on the flip side of that, you're also having enforced downtime and off season to allow your body to recover from the stresses of the season, and also to do basic conditioning in prep for the next season. And so climbing has the disadvantage in that climbers are trying to perform every damn day of the year.
Yes. But you can't be at your peak all the time.
You can't be at your peak all the time, and that's in lots of ways, both peak training load, and just general like load of training and not enough rest, but also things like if you're like trying to drop a kilo or two for your peak for a competition, you can't if you're at a very low body fat percentage, then there are potential big downsides from trying to maintain that year round. So there are some things to balance there that are quite difficult, and I suppose like as everyone gets older, they tend to accumulate experience in knowing how their body responds to things and get a bit better at knowing when they're going into the red and they're asking too much of their body, really.
To go back on the pulley injuries, now the GP first told you just don't do it, find another sport. Eventually, what did you learn of ways of dealing with pulley injuries and to include better sleep and nutrition? Were there other ways of recovery that you adapted to help yourself?
Yeah, well, in terms of the sleep and nutrition, in my earlier years of getting injured, I was just stumbling around in the dark. I didn't really know what I was doing at all, and there wasn't a great lot of useful advice on what to do. The main thing that I did that I stumbled upon, I learned purely by accident, as most lessons that I've learned, was to climb open-handed and not crimp all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that was a huge thing. So, I was lucky in that I enjoyed all the different climbing disciplines. I mean, that can be challenging because you're trying to peak for all these different disciplines in different seasons. But the variety, you can use it to your advantage sometimes. So when I was injured and I couldn't do any bouldering or training or anything, I could still climb because I went right back to the grades that I could climb without aggravating my finger, which was VS, if you know your trad grades. Super easy physically. But I looked in my climbing guide book and looked for the scariest sounding trad routes at that grade that I could think of. And I went and did loads of them, and actually I had an absolutely brilliant time. And then I did loads of VSs that were all very scary and adventurous, and then I did HVS, E1, E2, and went back, and I actually gathered so much experience as a trad leader that when by the time my finger was healed, I managed to break right through my barrier, which was E4 at the time, and go straight to E5 and then to E6. And I became a really good leader, because I'd gone right back and I'd used that time to learn some good technical skills. And I guess that's another important thing overall from injuries, is that can you immediately use that time that you've got in a rehab situation to work on some other aspect, and that could be some other aspect of your physical form, like your basic core conditioning. Maybe you use that time to get a stronger body if you've got a finger injury or whatever, or it could be something like let's say your schedule is quite busy with work or study or something like that, and that's getting in the way of your climbing training. And then you suddenly get injured, then you can just go hell for leather with that work.
Just front load all that work.
Get it all done, and by the time you're back ready to train again, then you have time to do the training properly. And give yourself proper rest and sleep, and you're not trying to do work till really late, work till midnight on your computer, and then get 6 hours of sleep where you're not wound down and not relaxed, and then you get up and try and train and try and train in your lunch hour. And it can be done, but it's very stressful. So you can use your time injured to make the best of the situation.
So climb around or work around those injuries.
Work around it in whatever way you can. So a change of scenery can be so good. It can just be so good for your psyche. I mean, I must admit that period when I had those bad pulley injuries and I was going around doing all those easy trad routes, it was one of the most fun periods in my whole climbing life.
Really?
Even though I was at the time I was like, I wish this injury would heal and then I could go back to trying hard boulders and sport routes. But when I look back on it, I had a blast just doing all these trad routes, and I had no pressure on myself.
That's what I was going to say. It would almost take the pressure off, because as a professional athlete, I imagine you're constantly having to push these limits or find new ground and do...
Well, I wasn't a professional athlete then. I was just like a young climber that was quite keen, and I wasn't really climbing hard. but yeah, I was very keen. I've always been super keen.
Get back to basics and work on other skills.
Yeah, yeah. And fortunately, I've not had that so much with upper body injuries, because I've just not had so many upper body injuries since.
Yeah.
Although when I had this shoulder injury,
Yeah.
like I was absolutely blown away by that experience,
Mm-hmm.
because when I mean, maybe with an AC joint separation, it feels very traumatic and serious at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember walking into my wall and just like raising my hand and putting my hand on a jug, and it just made me feel sick.
Oh,
And
jeez.
I felt like I was going to cry.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I will never jump for a jug and swing one-handed again. Like, it was inconceivable.
Yeah.
But I worked very hard on my physio, and a couple of things surprised me. One was that by doing like quite a few hours of physio every single day, it progressed insanely fast. And I've just, every week that went by, I was getting better and better.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, I was amazed that I was able to do that much physio.
Oh, really?
I seem to be able to absorb it. Even
Yeah.
the injured area seemed to absorb it very
Yeah.
well. I do think that that's because I was living a much better general lifestyle, taking better care of myself. So
Yeah.
at that point, I was eating well, and what I would consider eating well has maybe changed a fair bit from what I used to think. And I was also sleeping well, and making sure I was on top of those things. And I mean, it just was amazing how quickly it got back.
So, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, some of the most common injuries would be tendon, the pulleys,
Pulley tears from crimping.
tendinitis.
Yeah, especially golfer's elbow.
Golfer's
and
elbow.
the common flexor tendon there. So that tendon, you have the finger flexors, the wrist flexors, and pronator, the pronator teres that attaches there, and that commonly gets tendinosis.
Yeah.
And then traumatic shoulders. Yeah, and it can be like slow onset, like rotator cuff impingement.
Yeah.
Super common. But in climbers, a really common injury is labral tears. So you have the cartilage ring that runs around your shoulder joint, because it's a ball and socket joint that's very shallow.
Yeah.
And the cartilage labrum helps to support it, but it's flexible. And often when climbers jump for holds and have a really awkward swing, they're not controlling it with their muscles.
Yeah.
Or when they catch a hold with an arm outstretched and their feet slip.
Yeah.
I've heard of people rupturing a labrum if they're in a jam.
Oh, really?
Jam, and their feet slip.
Oh,
and they go into a straight arm.
Oh, God.
So that's quite a common injury. And the labral one is a serious one, because cartilage just doesn't really heal much, if at all, in adults.
Would you say that's probably the most detrimental injury to a climber?
Shoulders are probably the most challenging ones, because even if you have some rotator cuff damage, often the labrum is damaged. Like people that have a routine MRI for something else will often reveal there's labral damage that's not causing any symptoms. So there's a lot of the time you'll annoy your shoulder somehow, and actually the labrum will be slightly damaged, and you maybe just don't know. It's just slight, and so you carry on, and the shoulder's never quite right. But also, like, you just can't do anything with a damaged shoulder. At least when you do a pulley, you can still go to the gym and you can still train the rest of your body. So you can be insanely good at pull-ups by the time you come back. And you can climb open-handed. So that was one of the things when I had my pulley injuries. When I was that's where I was going with going out tri climbing. But the other thing that I did was, in the wall, I tried doing easy climbing on jugs, but I just got really frustrated and I wanted to climb harder stuff. And I realised that if I climbed with a proper open-handed 3-finger drag, it's super risky, because if you lose your concentration and just start to crimp, you could damage it further really easily. But with great discipline, if you can climb fully open-handed, I started off like most people, super weak on it. And now to this day, it's my favourite grip, and I'm stronger on 3-finger drag, and where most people will crimp, I will hold 3-finger drag.
Wow.
And I was able to climb like that quite well, even when crimping was still quite painful. And so that allowed me to come back to climbing a little bit earlier.
So in the end, it made you stronger, essentially.
In the end, it made me much stronger, because I had that that versatility in my grip type. I didn't have to take everything crimped.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I felt it made me a better climber overall. And that was purely by accident. Like I just sort of discovered that.
Yeah. So slowly adapting it, because I noticed when I got my pulley injury early on, psychologically it impacted me because I remembered the crimp hold and hearing that pop and going through that like months of recovery.
Yeah.
And it really made, to this day, I don't really enjoy crimps that much. And I don't know if it's because I got that shock early on.
Yeah.
And my mind just suddenly says, that's what happened last time, don't do that again. So what I should have been doing is after my injury and I recovered, I should have been working to strengthen these tendons over time. And I mainly open, I don't crimp that often unless I really need to. I've adapted more to the open hand. I feel not as strong though on a 3-finger.
Yeah, most people don't.
Like significant drop off.
Yeah. And sometimes when I run coaching sessions, and you sort of test people's strength with the different grip types, and some people, usually not really expert climbers, but even at an intermediate level, they sort of put their hands on the edge, like holding, and they're like, "What, you hang like this?" And they just can't even imagine that you would be able to hang, and it just feels very unnatural. But it quickly becomes natural and can become very, very strong. Yeah, so it's good to have versatility. I mean, does it help because you're crimping less often, so you're just decreasing the number of times you crimp and therefore your exposure to risk? I'm not sure if it could be that. Does it help to take the stress off the pulleys a bit and give them a rest in order that they can cope with the crimping that you do? Could be that. No one knows, but it certainly seems to me like it helps to reduce your risk of a pulley tear. But the number one thing for reducing the probability of injury is really being strong. I mean, that's like clear from the research that's there. That things like stretching and flexibility and other things don't seem to make much difference. But being strong is really important. And then you start thinking, well, are there even more specific details within that? So one of the things, if you think of a tendon or a ligament, but especially just consider a tendon, it has to link solid bone with plastic and muscle tissue. So that tendon is like really at risk as a point of failure between, like, it's the muscle stretching it is trying to pull something solid. So if the tendon is stiff, then that allows you to have more power, and it allows you to generate power faster. But that comes at the trade-off of having more risk of it tearing when the muscle pulls against a hard thing and there's no stretch, elongation. Then it's more likely to tear. And those properties of tendons of the balance between their stiffness and ability to translate force versus their elasticity and their ability to absorb force and not tear, that's determined by the cross links in between the collagen fibers. So you think of collagen fibers within a tendon as being, long strips of collagen rope, if you like, and they link with each other. And when there's a lot of cross links, then the tendon is stiffer, and that when you do something like plyometric training, like training on a campus board where the movement's very fast, that helps to increase the number of cross links.
Interesting.
And that will help you gain more power. But it would theoretically raise your risk for injury. Because if you exceed the force very quickly, then the tendon can tear.
So if you're doing a form of exercise like that, but in a somewhat safe setting,
it's good for power, but it might also inevitably have a trade-off in terms of injury risk. So the slow, heavy contractions, and in the case of the fingers, you would think of a fingerboard, a static hang on a fingerboard. That helps to gain strength, but without that increase of the number of cross links in tendons. Because actually, if you hang off a fingerboard, in the muscle tendon unit, if you think of it in the tendon, the fibres are allowed to slowly stretch and actually break some of the cross links.
Yeah.
Still some of them will grow, but they also will break, and that allows the tendon to keep its a sort of elasticity. And so as you get older, it might become more important to do more of that type of work, and maybe at the expense of the explosive stuff. And as you get older, it also may be important to take more care over the wild dinos or very rapid movements.
Yeah.
There's also some more subtle aspects of how things would change when you get older, and you have to take more care over your technique. So let's say you take a crimp and you're moving your feet and you just feel that like the move isn't right, and my fingers are not settled right on the hold, then for a younger climber, they might get away with that more often, and an older climber maybe has to be a bit more conservative. So it comes back again to the importance of good form and good technique. So people are used to thinking of good form in something like weight training. Like that's well built into the ethos of weight training and bodybuilding, is that an exercise should be performed with good form, and that with bad form it's risky. But with climbing and climbing technique, it's maybe not culturally recognised in the same way, that good form really plays into your injury risk. And so when I see like a more inexperienced climber and their feet are slipping quite a lot, I just think they're just going. It's an injury. I can't watch, because it is just like they're going to get injured very easily. So it's almost like as you set up for each move, you're thinking about, can you do the move, but you're also thinking about, can this move go wrong? And that's especially like the way setting is going.
Right, that level of risk increases.
There's a lot more wild moves, whereas the old school was just like
crimp, small stuff.
So small holds are risky in a way, but like these like really big wild moves carry the risk, so they must be done with good form, and you're thinking about how you're going to take the hold, how well you can control the swing, and thinking about potentially the wild landing you're going to have afterwards. All of these things are important, and it's a lot to think about, because it's hard enough just trying to climb, never mind
thinking about all these other factors. Now, one other reason why I reached out to Dave was I'm putting more time into my climbing now to try and progress and get better. And he climbed V15 at 37 years old. Now, for me, I'm coming up on my 35th birthday soon, and I'm trying to push these things. So talking about age and improving, I know we talked about this off camera before, that you shouldn't use age as a crutch, or you shouldn't have it as a handicap in your mind, because they're really, the limits are on yourself, right? You might have to adapt how you train a bit.
For most people that's true. And the main reason for that is most people are not even close to their potential.
There's just so much more room.
So the response to training is still similar as age progresses. The tissue will still respond. So it's like, well, why do older people have more problems with injuries or poor performance in sport? I mean, there is an ingredient to there are physiological changes that happen, but for most people that are not at their potential, these things are, I hesitate to say irrelevant, but they're approaching irrelevance. The more important thing is that it's the Western lifestyle that is
all that pizza I've been eating.
It's the accumulation of damage from a Western lifestyle that people's bodies are breaking down. I mean, if you like zoom back out from the sporting context, and you just like go to like an airport or a shopping centre, and you just look around at the people who are over 40, and a good proportion of them in the Western world, they can barely climb a set of stairs. Harsh as it is to say, people are in very, very poor physical shape.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think sports people sometimes think, well, these people are just a different breed and that doesn't apply to me. I do training.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do their training in the context of still including a lot of the ingredients of that Western lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the prime big hitters there are sleep and diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and maybe overwork and constant stress as well.
Yeah.
And then there's like all the other things like that are in the environment, things like pollution, things like this social setup that you have, and your opportunities to have like mental well-being.
Yeah.
All of these things, and also probably lots of other things that people are not yet aware of. Science is not yet aware of.
Yeah.
Things in the environment that are accumulating damage that you can measure. Like you can look at cells and think, well, okay, every cell that it's powered by its cellular engines, which are mitochondria, and you know you have tens to hundreds of thousands of them in every cell or nearly every cell, and the quality of those mitochondria are getting poorer through life, through accumulating oxidative stress, oxidative damage. You can see that happening, and you can measure it, and lots of other things that you can see if you actually look in the body, and you can see these are the effects of aging, but they're effects of aging because of the environment that people are in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those are to an extent modifiable things.
Okay.
So you think, well, the existence of older athletes who still perform, well, actually improve on their best, even at a high level.
Yeah.
Into their 40s, 50s, whatever.
Yeah.
They demonstrate that it is possible to do do
Yeah. We were talking about Neal Gresham and Steve McClure, and
they're
a host of others.
It's brilliant to see what they do. In a way, it doesn't. And when I was younger, I think that would have surprised me. I would have been like, "How did they do it?"
Yeah.
And now I just think, of course they can do it. It's totally possible to do that.
Yeah.
If your whole lifestyle is right. So I think either the further up the performance level you want to go in your sport, and also the older you get, the more important it is to have the whole game all working with you. You can't afford to get away with burning the candle at both ends, so to speak, and living an unhealthy lifestyle, and trying to kind of mitigate that with like 10 hours training in the climbing wall a week. It works up to a certain level, but not beyond. Everything that you do night and day is training. So when the quality of your sleep is either training or detraining. And like all the other aspects of what you do in your day outside of your time at the climbing wall or the crag is all training too, and it's all either contributing to increasing your performance or decreasing it. And a lot of the focus, people go into intense detail and focus on the what they do when they're in the climbing wall or the crag. But sometimes at the expense of paying attention to all the other things. Or sometimes I get the sense that people they like to hold on to all of those habits that are maybe not doing them that much good outside of their climbing training, and try to sort of compensate for that by improving the quality of the actual climbing. And again, that maybe works to an extent, but it only takes you so far.
Or if you're pushing too hard in the gym to compensate, now you're putting yourself at risk as well from overtraining and injuring yourself. Or
I think the number one priority is to look at your general level of health. That's the ultimate platform on which to build a strong, healthy, well-performing body. If you've got that, then everything else just falls into place. But you're just on the back foot if you don't have that. You know, if you're sleeping poorly, if you're overstressed, if your diet's not right, then you know you're going to get injured more frequently. You're likely to. It's not certain, but it's likely. And you're going to have a harder time recovering from injuries.
So when you've gotten injured in the past, you've done all this physio to recover and come back. Do you still keep some of that into your routine? Do you still work on certain strengthening techniques or physio type workouts? To help?
I do. So sort of coming to more like specifics of what climbers do.
Yeah.
There is like some basic body maintenance that I think is a good idea, and I do work that into my normal climbing. I mean, part of it's actually just into the normal climbing, like making sure you're climbing in lots of different angles and types of climbing.
Yeah.
It's one of the advantages of doing all-round trad. Like if you do
Yeah.
mountaineering, like winter climbing, after the winter, I've just, if you're climbing that sort of terrain, like chimneys and corners, and you're just doing all sorts of moves,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually do feel physically stronger and more stable
Yeah.
after the winter,
Yeah.
even though my fingers may be a little bit weaker. But I also do basic body maintenance, especially to counteract the classic climber's hunch.
Yeah, I know. Even as we sit here, I feel myself the urge to hunch over.
Yeah, that's right. So I do make sure that I work my rotator cuff in particular, around my shoulders, and I do make sure that I work on the pushing chain.
Yeah.
And I don't do loads, so one of the problems is that you can devise a huge workout with loads of stuff on the rings and floor exercises and stretches and things like that, that could take another day in itself. Mm-hmm. The problem is, will you actually do it?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's one basic thing. Is like a good exercise is one you'll do.
Yes. Yeah.
So I do like to keep it simple. So I make sure I do a few sets of push-ups, and I make them hard by raising my feet. So they're not just like I do them like a really hard exercise. Yeah. And I do a little bit of rotator cuff stuff, and general movement patterns to keep that scapular movement pattern. Yeah. Which everything that we do, not just the climbing, which is generally doing internal rotation like that as we reach with the other arm, but also sitting in front of the computer. And generally sitting, or these days sitting looking at the phone as well, and like all these things that are very, very bad. And just sitting generally, just being very inactive. It's not all bad. I mean, the rest and being inactive has some benefits. There's always trade-offs.
Right. There's always. I want to pick your brain on one thing you mentioned before, or off camera, that we were talking about. Before you climbed V15, you were obviously doing all these things to improve yourself as a climber, but there was one element that you mentioned that once you started doing this, it took you to the next level.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, basically, I radically changed my diet, and I had studied sports nutrition in my master's, and I guess I'd studied it to the level of understanding the sort of fundamental rules of the athlete's diet, really. Yeah. But I was kind of unaware that that was within a kind of paradigm or a context, if you like, and that there potentially were other contexts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I stumbled upon that just by accident, because one of the things I had to do to climb V15 was drop a couple of kilos of fat, like not loads, but just some.
Yeah.
And through that, at first I did a ketogenic diet, a very high fat diet, and then since then I've done many experiments with lots of different diets. Yeah. But as a general rule, one thing I did was improve my diet quality greatly. Especially, I included a lot more animal foods. I was eating a lot more meat and eggs. Yeah. As a primary, and I'd say that the nutrient density of my diet was vastly increased, and I mean the effect of that was just huge. I didn't really anticipate how big an effect it was. Yeah. And not just so. I mean, it was useful because I was able to maintain a more athletic body fat percentage without having to watch the amount of food that I was eating, like all the time. Yeah. So I was able to eat ad libitum and stay at a better body fat percentage. I've also put on a lot of muscle.
Yeah, Dave was saying he's got the issue now where he's got too much muscle.
Well,
which is funny to hear, but in guessing climbing that means a lot.
Yeah, so I changed my diet radically towards the end of 2016. Yeah. And in the summer of 2017, I had a DEXA scan, And then I just had another one recently, almost exactly 2 years later. And in that time, I put on 4.5 kilos of muscle.
Yeah.
So I put on all this muscle, and my sort of basic strength level on the fingerboard is pretty much the same as when I was about 6 kilograms lighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've put on proportionally more muscle in my upper body, but I've also put on a fair bit of muscle on my legs.
Yeah.
One thing that I do is I carry heavy winter racks up mountains all winter long, and so I've got a lot of leg muscle. And that's not great for trying to climb 9A or V15.
Yeah. Now the fingerboard you use as a way to help, I guess, isolate while you're recovering from an injury, to help strengthen yourself, but also you use it to get your strength to the next level as well.
Yeah, it's a great tool for improving your basic strength. It allows you to maximally activate the muscle in a very controlled and very safe way, and a very repetitive way. So, as you get stronger, it gets more and more difficult to provide the muscle with a hard enough stimulus to say, no, you're not strong enough, you need to be stronger. You need to fire all those really stubborn muscle fibers that are refusing to fire. And get them working, and get them to be more ready to be activated, recruited, and also potentially to grow the muscle ultimately as well. So that, muscle strength is a combination of the actual size of the muscle, the number of motor units, and also the frequency with which they're recruited. They both play into your strength, and doing any basic strength work would potentially improve both of those. It's also good because it's that slow, heavy contraction. So as you do your dead hang, that you can think of the tendon slowly lengthening, and that allows some of those crosslinks in the tendon to break, and will affect the elastic, maybe improve the elastic quality of the tendon, which is maybe not actually great for strength. I think overall the elasticity may not change that much, but it's not making it more stiff, but it will allow the tendon and muscle to become stronger. But the other thing that happens when you do a slow isometric contraction is that damaged areas within the tendon, if you have some damage there, as the tendon stretches, it begins to load the damaged areas better, and that can help the tendon to heal.
I've heard about this for tendonitis as well. Eccentrics on the tendon to help stimulate some tear, and then essentially recovering it afterwards.
So it's unclear in the research whether what the best mode of exercise is to improve the health of a damaged tendon. In the case of it's better in the most common cases when people get golfer's elbow, super common injury. And so the research has been done that you could see quite a good effect by doing eccentrics. That is the tendon lengthening under load. So if you imagine the wrist flexor, it flexes the wrist like that. So that would be taking a dumbbell and lifting it up. So that's concentric contraction, and an eccentric contraction is as you lower it back down. So there was some research that showed that if you isolated that eccentric portion, i.e. you lift the dumbbell with the other arm and only do the eccentric part, so you're just repeatedly stretching that tendon under load, that was effective. But there's now more research coming out that's showing that just isometric contraction is maybe as effective, potentially more. It's not yet clear, but it certainly seems that a long, slow, heavy contraction that allows the whole tendon to stretch enough that the damaged area begins to be loaded. Because if you can imagine the cross section of a tendon like a rod or a rope, and in the center, it's like, say there's a damaged area in the center, because the area around it is under load, it squashes that damaged area of tissue, compresses it, and that's why you actually see inside tendons the tissue starts to turn to cartilage.
Oh really?
Yeah, so cartilage is used to being loaded, and so the tissue actually adapts to that change in stress. It's not being pulled like a normal collagen rope, it's being compressed. But the long, slow contractions can actually achieve a normal loading along the length of the fibre, and that seems to be that's why people think that's how it works.
How often do you do hangboard exercises in your routine?
I try to do fingerboard most days, maybe up to 6 days a week.
Okay.
My situation is a little bit different from most in that I live near my climbing. I do most of my climbing outdoors.
Yeah.
So when the weather is like it is right now,
It's
pouring with
pouring rain outside. If you hear the rain in the background.
Yeah. So I would train here 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And if the weather's good, I just go climbing and don't train at all.
Yeah.
So my schedule's a little bit broken like that.
Yeah.
But I like the quite high frequency, so I don't mind doing fingerboard most days, and that works as well because when you look at the research around activating the genes that build more collagen in tendons,
Yeah.
they become maximally activated from just a few exercises, and then they can't become more activated.
Yeah.
So actually, quite high frequency of exercises can be really good. So it takes like a sort of 6 hour gap for those genes to be able before they can be reactivated again. So actually doing frequent, very short sessions works quite well. Of not very much exercise, so it works on two fronts because you're not having a huge load, a huge training session that's hard to recover from.
Yeah.
Causing lots of damage.
Yeah.
But you're just doing enough to activate those genes to turn on all those programs for repair, and then you have a short rest before your next session.
That's a really good point because I don't know if most people out there train like I do. I'll go to the gym. I'm trying to go to the gym 4 days a week now, but I'll go for 3 hours and I'll try and push myself to a point.
I think that's totally fine because
totally
climbing is a technical sport.
Okay.
The number one thing that climbers need is good technique, and that's doing a lot of moves.
Yeah.
So like I climb loads as well, and I always have, and I actually still to this day think that that's undervalued in climbing is actually doing real climbing, doing lots and lots and lots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the basic strength is, I mean, it's super important, but without technique, it doesn't go anywhere. You need both.
Yeah.
So learning technique in any sport requires a lot of time to do moves over and over and over again. So that's totally fine. But in your situation, if you have 4 days a week but not more in your schedule, then that's where your fingerboard at home comes in.
It's true. Pick up your fingerboard, everyone. Set it up at home and use it.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of fingerboards out there not being used.
Yeah.
I had one before, and
That's actually why. Well, one of the reasons why I decided to write my first book, and that's why I call it 9 out of 10 climbers make the same mistakes, because I was going around the country like doing loads of coaching at that time, and I'd often talk about fingerboards, and I'll tell my own story about how that put a couple of grades on my climbing. I went from like 8B to 8C plus and 9A in like a year and a half. So I was like stable at 8B being my limit, and then I just took a jump.
Shot up.
And I was like, God, why didn't I do this before?
Diet and fingerboarding.
Yeah, well, they were two big
Two
sort of
things.
leaps forward in my climbing. But yeah, so I was saying to lots of climbers, have you got a fingerboard at home?
Yeah.
And some people say no. Some people say no because they rented somewhere and they couldn't put it, and they couldn't start changing their door frames. It's like, you can build your own freestanding setup.
Yeah.
You can adapt it to something that clamps to your door frame. There are ways around it. Find them.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. And some people would say they had a fingerboard, and I would say, how often do you use it? And the most common answer was twice, as in twice ever.
Yeah.
I've just found this so curious, and it's like, well, why?
Yeah.
And people would often say that it's in their cellar, or there was something unmotivating about the space, that they were away from their family. And so I'd always say to people, like, put your fingerboard either in your kitchen door frame or in front of your telly, or wherever you like to spend time, or if it's somewhere else, like, it's easier than it ever has been to make a nice environment where you take your phone and you play something that you like to listen to or watch as you do your fingerboard.
Watch a good YouTube episode.
Totally, yeah.
Put it on.
Yeah,
and
listen
just
to people
hang.
talking about training if that's what you like to do to entertain yourself. Whatever.
Yeah.
But get the workout done, you know.
Just work that in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
I mean, this is why, so we're in my garage,
Yeah.
and like
It's a beautiful gym he's got in here.
Yeah.
There are holds everywhere. There's roots all over the place. I love the paint job you've got.
yeah, I put a lot of effort into making this a nice place, but every time I come out here, and I open the garage door and put the light on,
Yeah.
I just go, yes, I can't wait
Yes,
to
you get
start.
excited.
I'm psyched, even when I'm knackered,
Yeah.
or I've got something else on my mind. I come in here and I feel like I want to train,
Yeah.
and that's really important, because most people like do spend a lot of their time with other things on their minds, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that going back to the fingerboard, it's you don't need to do much. I often think that a lot of discourse in about training is overcomplicated.
Yeah.
The physiology of training is super complicated. The actual execution of it is often extremely simple.
Just get to it.
Just like find a hang on your fingerboard, whether it's on two hands on a small edge, or one hand with a bit of support, or one hand, whatever feels hard,
Yeah.
and hang on and try super hard, hang on as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Do that a few sets.
Yeah.
You're not going far wrong.
Yeah.
There are a few more details to learn.
Yeah.
Like I did a video about how to hangboard, and in about half an hour you cover in
Everything.
more than enough detail.
I will
everything you
link
need to
that
know.
below. How to hangboard.
Yeah, but it is such a great tool.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we talked about psych just a second ago. I might touch on this as the last one related to injuries. For someone who, you're a professional climber, and I think there's a lot of people out there like myself who will spend most of our free time climbing and doing this thing. And if you get injured, the psychological impact that might come with that can be really tough for people.
Oh yeah.
Especially people making a living off this, or if it's your social environment, it's how you get out of the house and you go stay active and fit. Suddenly, if I get injured, and well, how would you deal with the psychological impact? I mean, I guess one thing, still go to the gym and try and work on other things. But do you have any other tips for that?
Yeah, well, that's actually a big complex question. That
Is it?
and there's lots of different things. So one thing is that anyone who relies completely on doing their sport for their psychological well-being is in a
Right.
vulnerable position.
Right. Yes.
So I think it's healthy to have other things going on in your life
Yeah.
that are not just climbing. And I say that as the most, like, I'm as obsessed about climbing as anyone. I'm quite confident in saying
He
that.
is. He is.
But you know, to have something else that you enjoy, but it can just be doing something else that you know will play into your climbing in the long run.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's again, I think that's probably easier for people as they get older, is to be able to think of their climbing more in terms of the long term, like not just the next day or the next month.
Yeah.
Like I now think of my climbing in terms of where I want to be with my climbing in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years, and I sort of thinking about that now, and I realise that that's a long game with lots of things that need to go in place. And so sometimes when I've been injured, I've just focused on doing work, and it's like I'm working to earn money to earn me climbing time in a year, in a year's time.
Yeah.
Or it can be I'm working on basic conditioning. So like, let's say I injure a finger and I'm like, okay, now is the time I'm going to sort out my shoulders once and for all. I'm going to get strong shoulders. I'm going to be able to do my rings exercises really well. And I'm going to come back able to do that. Or I'm going to research how I'm going to plan my training in the longer term. Or I'm going to plan an expedition, a climbing trip that I wanted to go on that takes a lot of time and effort. Or doing all of those things together, more than likely. So all of those things can help to make a psychologically difficult period a lot easier. But also just the physiotherapy, I think if you view it in the same way as you do training, that you have to lower the level. So, but the great thing about a rehab is if you're doing it well, you should see progress quite quickly. You know, in your normal training, as you're healthy, once you've been doing fingerboard for a year, every time you hang on it, like the gains are so slow that you have to be so consistent over such a long period that, you know, it becomes like quite challenging to stick with it. But with an injury, it's like every week you're seeing a little bit of progress, It'll still go backwards or forwards. You'll still have some weeks where you're like, I feel like I'm going backwards, but it should be temporary, and then you should bounce back. And also, I've found through, hard experience that a lot of the times when I've come back from injury have been some of the best periods in my own climbing, where just the level of psych is just so high. And I've climbed really, really well, and really, really appreciated my climbing very strongly. And ultimately, there's a reality there that everyone's going to get battle scars. And it's very easy if you go to the climbing gym to look around and see everyone climbing hard stuff and think that it's only you that's injured. But you ask anyone and they've got a story to tell about injuries, and they might well say, "Oh, I know I look like I'm climbing all right, but I'm still got pain from this elbow or this shoulder or whatever." So everyone's going through the same thing.
That's amazing. Dave, thanks for this. I learned a lot, and I know you guys learned a lot too. This is really wonderful. I'm going to put links down below to your 2 books, Make or Break and 9 out of 10 Climbers Make the Same Mistakes. Go check out Dave's YouTube channel. He's very generous with his time and information and everything he shares about his experience. And I love his channel. I watch all of his stuff. So do that. And thanks again. Thanks for having me up here.
Cool. That's really good.
All right. Bye.
Nice.
Thanks, man. That's great.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, these discussions can always take so many different directions. You could dive into. I mean, you could dive into the detail of all these things. Like shoulders and elbows,
and how to do each one. How to
That's right.
Cover from each one.
I mean, I think my reasoning for writing these 2 books was twofold. The injuries book. On one hand, I wanted to share real basic stuff, because I was realizing that, especially with things like the elbow, golfer's elbow tendinosis, like doing those eccentrics, it's like a brain dead simple exercise. But people didn't know about it. And it's like, God, this information, this really basic information, just needs to get out there. But and then there was that whole wider thing of like the concept of taking care of your body, is like really respecting it and what that means.
It's something that hasn't been around forever. Like today, I think the conversation shifted about wellness and taking care of yourself physically, mentally, but 20 years ago, it wasn't. Sports psychology wasn't really a thing until.
There's also another problem in that. So, in our world that we live in, most people are unhealthy because they don't do enough exercise. So exercise, sport is just equated with health, and it's like the more exercise, the more health. But the thing is, like, once you get into proper training to push yourself in sport, sometimes it gets to a stage, or actually often it gets to a stage where more training and pushing further up the performance ladder is not healthy. It's actually really quite unhealthy. And you actually have to do other things to mitigate the unhealthy aspects of doing your sport. It's training itself is a stress. That's how it works.
This is so interesting. There's George St. Pierre is a Canadian mixed martial arts MMA fighter. He's in UFC. His trainer did Joe Rogan podcast. And he was talking about this, how a lot of people have this image of people this high level just going to the gym and just giving all out every single time. And he's like, you just can't do that. These their bodies would break down. So his method of training George St. Pierre was about volume over time. Maybe I'm getting him to a certain point in the exercise where it's 80%, but you work in more time. And like you said, learning technique is so important in climbing. So the time you spend in the gym, putting in that time climbing more and more routes will give you so much. It's just building that encyclopedia you have as a climber and learning how to move. You're not getting injured as much, and then you have periods where you're pushing those peaks.
That's right. So that time learning technique just means that your probability of of getting into a position or not anticipating an injury that's about to happen. Because of some error, like your foot slipping or something. It's just that much more or less likely. And so you can just cope with more. But there's all sorts of other aspects. I mean, just even things like staying really lean, like athletically lean. At the extremes, that starts to become like unsustainable in the long term. And you have to do other things to mitigate that. And that's why athletes have to pay so much more attention to the other things like their sleep. An athlete can't just say, oh well, like all of the non-athletic people I know, they sleep for 7-8 hours and they're fine. It's like, well, yeah, but they're not trying to put their body under so much stress. You're trying to have all the stress of a Western lifestyle and then pile training on top of that. It's like a lot more. So something has to give. Like you at a certain level, you have to either reduce some of those other external stressors or improve the quality of your recovery to such a high level that you're able to actually cope with that in the long term. So that was that sort of basic idea that I wanted to write about and put across to people to approach all their training decisions with, and also their decisions outside of the training with that in mind.
And again, we're still recording right now, but I think what's like one thing that's really, what I told Dave is so unique is he has this background, and what you don't see is he's doing all this research throughout the year to add more knowledge to what he can bring to the climbing community by doing these books and sharing things on his YouTube channel, or maybe some future book that you might write. So hopefully, but he's doing this, well, one, for self-interest, but two, to also give back to everyone. And that's a unique thing, to have someone who's climbing at such a high caliber and also who's bringing these expertise in a health exercise field that's so relatable to everyone out there trying to get better.
I love that aspect of doing the research. I mean, to me, it's just like, it's just part of climbing to me. I don't feel like it's an effort or anything. So I do. I usually spend, I probably average about 4 hours a day just sitting reading research and thinking about how it might play into my routine or anyone else's routine in their climbing. But I love that. To me, it's like climbing better ultimately is about problem solving. And learning and understanding, and that can be like technique learning on the rock, like how to move. To me, it's understanding, and understanding is about like curiosity. So like I'm curious about how a move works. I'm curious why my body responds in a certain way. Like if I feel tired one day, it's like, well, why is that happening? Or if you change some aspect of your diet and then it's like, oh, like I've had this other downstream effect, either on the training or whatever. It's like, well, why is that happening? I love trying to understand that and then use it, and I feel like in my own climbing, all the progress that I've made, it's on one hand I've just consistently trained. So I've showed up and completed my training and tried stuff again, and when I fail on it, I just try, and I'm not scared of failing. But on the other hand, I've made some jumps where you're stumbling around trying to figure out how to get to your next level, and then sometimes I've stumbled on it through research, sometimes I've stumbled on it through accident, or it's one of these things where you make your own luck, where the research gets you closer to where you want to be, and then you stumble upon something that worked. There's something to this. That's the one. And I absolutely love that. I think that I always remember that from my first 3 years of climbing, where you do a winter's training and then you come back on the rock. This is at Dumbarton Rock where I started climbing, and you pull back onto a boulder problem you were trying the previous season, and you just feel the strength that you didn't have 6 months ago, and you're like, yes. Like it's magic, and I don't think I'll ever tire of that feeling.
I know that experience. It's a great feeling to know instantly that I am stronger than I was last year.
But I remember when I was 18, even then thinking, I better enjoy this feeling because it's not going to last. And so
you're going to hit the ceiling at some point.
I'm 41 and I still get to experience that. It's brilliant. there are still things to learn and things to change that can make you improve.
I like what you're talking about, the problem solving and smarter climber. There's a great talk that Dave did, an interview with Neal Gresham, and I think you both talked about not being a natural climber.
Yeah.
And it's something that I feel like I grew up playing hockey. I don't feel like I've got the right body type, whatever that is, to be a climber. But it's interesting talking to Dave because he'll talk about the process that he has going through a climb, and you'll problem solve and you'll find new way to do it, something different that someone else wouldn't have done, that's maybe less stressful on your body or powerful.
Yeah, but usually just doesn't require strength.
It doesn't require strength.
I never
unlock something.
I never use the standard sequence for any of these.
Yeah.
If I've gone and repeated other stuff, I always find a different way. Yeah, and it's just because I'm not nearly as strong as, like, you walk into any climbing gym, and the young folk that are in there are just like miles.
Really strong kids. Strong kids these days.
And it's just amazing. I'm just amazed how strong they are.
Yeah.
But rock climbing.
Yeah.
It's primarily a technical thing, and
Yeah.
so any sport performance is about working your weaknesses and playing to your strengths. That's why my board is just a straight 45 with lots of crimps, because that was always my weakness, is having that pure power.
Yeah.
But on the rock, the one thing I'm confident about is I'd have as good a chance as any as finding a method for the crux that requires less power.
Yeah. And watching you climb, you seem like an extremely precise and technical climber, which I guess helps into the efficiency of what you're doing.
Totally.
And your likelihood of accomplishing it.
And I learned that through my apprenticeship in climbing. Like, again, I think, like, your environment's super important. So I learned to climb at Dumbarton Rock, which is the rock type is basalt. It's very smooth, unhelpful rock. There's not a lot of friction.
Yeah.
And it's not just like straightforward, powerful pulling like limestone pockets or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very technical.
Yeah.
And like some of the climbs I did there, I think I was telling you last night when I did this route Rhapsody, which was my first E11, and when I first started trying it, it was for pure curiosity if the line was possible.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I would ever climb it.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying, I really didn't think that it was possible for me. And the crux is right at the very end, and it took me like 10 sessions or something to do the individual moves. So it's like no chance that I'm going to be able to do these moves at the end of all of this climbing.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how through technical efficiency you find yourself 6 months later on the lead on those moves.
Being able to do it. That video is frightening too. You watch the fall Dave takes at the end.
Oh yeah.
I know you say it's a comfy fall, but you're falling, I don't know, 30 feet? Pretty far.
It's more than that. Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, it's more than that. Yeah, but it's still just onto the rope. It's just like a sport route when you skip a boat or two.
Yeah. Hey, it stopped raining.
Ish. Maybe we can go climbing now.
Let's go climbing.
Well, almost.
Hopefully.
Maybe one more cup of tea and then go climbing.
Yeah, let's do that.